What up, my brothers and sisters? I had just learned about this recently, actually tonight. The city beneath the lake. These, and this is one of the articles that I found, and I just got done reading about the city beneath the lake. And this happens to be a predominantly black town. So I'm about to read this article right quick, and after I finish reading, I would like to hear your thoughts about this and how does this really make you feel after learning about this. This is how much these devils fucking hate us, okay? Like we don't know that already. So I'm going to go ahead. And these are my personal observations, research, and experiences. The very foundation of America stands on misrepresentations and downright lies about American history, especially history associated with the plight of blacks and acts of racism in America. One must ask why. What are the skeletons hiding beneath the surface of American history? Why are the authors of American history not telling the truth, such as the history of Lake Lanier, which happens to be in Georgia? Just a very short 42 miles north of Atlanta, beneath the lake, lies the truth of a small village called Oscarville, Georgia. It was a thriving village that was predominantly black owned. Why is a village beneath the lake, you ask? Well, 108 years ago, an incident changed the lives of 1,098 black families forever. There was two known events that occurred which changed the history of Oscarville forever. After the rape and beating of Mae Crow, an 18-year-old white woman, September 8, 1912, an angry mob was formed and began tormenting the black residents of Forsyth County, Georgia. Some reports stated that the beating was so brutal that her eye was dislodged from her skull. Now that sounds like something white men would do. That's just my opinion. After her death on September 23rd, the angry mob began burning black owned churches, houses, and businesses. The local papers said that she was beaten and died of her injuries. The two black men who were accused of her death were on trial for a day and hung outside of the town. The media mentioned that over 5,000 spectators watched as their lifeless bodies hang swinging in the Georgia breeze. They also depicted these men as low-brow, gorilla-like Negroes. I'm working my way to get through this because when I first read this, I was so angry. It has also been noted that the grandniece of Mae Crow, Debbie Vermont, thought her assailants were completely innocent based on her grandmother's account of the incident. 2 weeks prior, Ellen Grice, another white woman, was allegedly raped by a black man. An angry militia hung him without any due process, investigations, or a proper trial. Since when in this country has a trial ever been proper for black people, primarily black men? This and many others have lost their lives far too many times for crimes that they never committed, which still goes on today. As the mob grew increasingly more violent, they ran off, chased down, and hunted 1,098 black residents from their homes, businesses, barns, and churches in an attempt to keep the county segregated. Forsyth County continues to be recognized as one of the most racist places in the country, in my opinion. Hell, in my opinion, this whole damn country is fucking racist. But let's continue. After this ethnic cleansing was complete to the satisfaction of white locals, Lake Lanier, a man-made lake, was created. Lake Lanier was forced upon the land of those affluent, self-sufficient blacks. The Beaufort Dam was also created and flooded in order to cover up the hidden horror of the county's past. There seemed to be very little punishment for racial injustice. Of course, that still goes on today. Nothing has changed from 108 years ago when this took place. Egregious to some but appalling to most, in Forsyth County, Wikipedia and other news sources made mention that Lake Lanier was flooded to ensure that Georgia was always replenished with a strong water source and to support hydroelectric power for the city of Atlanta. Even in 1956, people continued to lie about the facts of this creative cover up. What else is new? The government is a criminal organization. You think you're gonna get you think you're gonna reveal what criminals have done? And they will go through this length to cover their tracks. And let's not forget, it was white people who stole this land from the Indians. But let's continue. White residents even went to the extreme of raising the level of the lake high enough to cover the trees. Later, they came around frequently during the process to cut off the tops of the trees. Some of the stumps from the trees are there even today. As restless souls roam beneath the surface of a very popular landmark, I can't help but wonder if their souls will ever truly rest. As unbelievable as this event may seem, there are still graves below the once established town. In 2007, a major drought revealed the motor speedway that was a famous structure in the village of Oscarville, Georgia. This is proof substantiating the stories of the famous speedway. Other reporters have called it a haunted memory. How ironic. Even in 1987, as Forsyth County still remained segregated, Coretta Scott King, Hosea Williams, Dick Gregory, Andrew Young, Jesse Jackson, John Lewis, and many others attempted to protest peacefully and were met by similar treatment of the town's past. The KKK was presented as well as 2,300 National Guard soldiers to keep the peace. 55 arrests were made, including KKK leader David Dukes. You can read say what that is. And white power bellowed the Georgia air. Why should obtaining peace come at such a painful cost? Some say the curse of Oscarville will never be lifted until the depths that are buried beneath that lake can be vindicated. That will never happen. Far too many times we've seen the story play out like a bad movie, ending with an even more grimacing sequel. There is a doomed history that surrounds all atrocities associated with oppression and racism. Reference the old saying, every dog has its day. The city beneath the lake may be forgotten to some or even looked over, but the soil around it knows its truth. One day those businesses, churches, crops, and fruit trees that were once planted in the backyard of its native locals will bear the fruit of the original owners. And that is the end of this article. My thoughts on this: we should start chasing some of these white folks who are descendants of the white folks who did this to our brothers and sisters of this town of Oscarville, Georgia. 109 years ago. I knew we had many black towns because I read about some of them, but I did not know about some of our black-owned towns in this country that were were flooded to make lakes for these affluent devils. I knew about this. I knew about Central Park in New York and what they did to our brothers and sisters there. I did not know about this. This is new to me, and I learned this from a good friend of mine. And I'm glad I started doing some research about it. This is very fucked up, but it's not surprising. This is the devil's nature. Anytime we thrive or doing way better than them, all it takes is one incident, just one, and we don't even have to have nothing to do with it. And honestly, I don't believe them brothers who they lynched at that time had anything to do with the death of that white woman. I really don't. I think it was some grumpy old white men who beat the fuck out that white woman. And then they want to blame black men to give them an excuse to burn the town down. Anytime anything happens to our people, there's always a white woman involved. Always. And even reading this article, her descendant even said from what her grandmother told her, These black men were innocent. They had nothing to do with it, which came to the conclusion that they had nothing to do with it. So I wanted to bring this to you because it was brought to me. What are your thoughts about this, my brothers and sisters? And I'm only speaking to African people, black people. I'm not talking to any other person of color, just black and African people. Leave your comments below.